It's quite interesting when you do online meditation. I didn't think it would really work, but it does actually. You can get quite a feeling of a group with the online meditation. So we do have a meditation sessions on from Monday to Thursday online through Discord, a platform that you can find on the BSV, the Buddhist Society of Victoria website. So that's and that's from 7 to 7:30, and it's a group of people meditating together, and also a monk usually often joins in and answers questions at the end. And if you're an early riser, there's one in the morning, a group set, 4:30 till 6:30, any time between there, not 2 hours. That's asking a lot, isn't it, that time of the morning? So that's also available too. So it gives a bit of support to the practice when we meditate in a group, which is why, these sorts of sessions can be very supportive for our meditation, really quite amazing. And it's why we have meditation centres, actually. And that's a relatively new invention, really, in a sense, because I think the Burmese started this meditation centre tradition, actually, though I've heard the Buddhist monastery sometimes referred to as meditation centres. But there were a bit more than that, actually, so great. So this evening I thought I would start with an experiment. So I don't know if you've had this experience. This is what I'll ask you about. I've had this experience where I've had to get up in the morning, and maybe I've set an alarm to get up in the morning, but before the alarm goes off, I wake up, maybe a minute or so before, and I'm awake. And so I wondered, is this a common experience? Have many people here found that if they've had to get up the next morning at a particular time, they may have set an alarm, but they get up before even the alarm? Have you had that experience? Put your hand up. I think most people have, actually. And I think it's well worth looking into what that tells us that about our minds, how the mind works and what's happening. It shows really that if we have an intention in the mind before we go to sleep, the mind somehow, it keeps track of it. We're not doing it. Do you wake up every 5 minutes and think, I've got to get up at 4 o'clock? We don't. And yet the mind does that. It keeps track of it. And at 4 o'clock or whenever we have to get up, we get up, and usually before an alarm. So it's really shows one of the things that is very, has important implications. It shows the power of our minds, actually, that even while we're asleep, even though we're not actually controlling it, as it were, we've just set an intention, we've had this idea in mind, I must get up at 4 o'clock or whatever it is. And it's worked. So it really shows the power of the mind, but what it also shows is the power of intention. And I think this is something that can be very important in our lives. We can use it wisely, not to control things, but to direct the mind, not to harass the mind, but just to, as it were, give it a destination, give it a goal, a way of operating. So this, of course, in Buddhism, we call it a resolution or a determination. And sometimes we use the Pali words adhitthana or Sanskrit adhisthana. And of course, also chanda is another word for it too. So it's an important quality to use in our meditation and in our lives. And did many of you see this walk for peace in the US? Recently happened. Many of you see? I did. And I thought that was really so inspiring for the world, and particularly for America, giving hope and bringing some very practical teachings to the to people that they encountered on their 2,300-mile walk from Fort Worth in Texas to Washington, D.C. And any of those that followed it, I mean, that's quite a grueling walk. But they were really tough monks, and but very, very wise teachings that they gave along the way. And so one of the big teachings I think that I heard repeated a number of times is the monk who was leading it, Venerable Panyakara, would say to people, when you get up in the morning, just repeat to yourself, this will be my peaceful day. This will be my peaceful day. This will be my peaceful day. And what is that? It's making this resolution, using the power of the mind to shape our experience, actually. And the mind can take us to focusing more on the peace. How many of us get up in the morning, and what is the resolution that's going through our minds? What is the mantra that's going through our minds? Oh God, what have I got to do today? And we think we may have something that's coming up, and we think, oh no, this is going to be terrible, And so we are setting our minds up really for focusing on a negative quality. Maybe it's a feeling of fear, of dread, of anxiety. And so it's really important the way we start the day. And we can use this power of resolution, this power of intention to actually shape the direction we go in, what the mind focuses on. So this is something that we can do and very useful for us to do, not only in the morning, but when we do our meditation too. We can use this power of intentional resolution in our meditation before we start. And when we have these intentional resolutions, because a part of intention, this is a very important part of the mind, what we're intending to do. And the Buddha talks about the mind in many different ways, but one aspect of it is the intentional activities of the mind. We call it sankhara. It's the way we react to experience. And it's so important how we intend to act. And if we can consciously be aware of, point the mind in a good direction, then it can be very useful in our daily life and meditation. So how can we use these intentions? We can use them in two ways. First of all, that example of the walk for peace, they're using it in a very positive sense. So this will be my peaceful day. It's an intention towards a very positive state. And we can do it with any positive state. Let my mind be very patient with what I experience today. Let my mind be very patient with what I experience today. Let my mind be very patient with what I experience today. And that can direct the mind in that direction. We always repeat these resolutions 3 times because we do everything 3 times in Buddhism. We take the refuges 3 times, we pay homage to the Buddha 3 times, all that. But we can use it in a positive sense. Any of these positive emotions, whether to be more caring during the day, to focus more on friendliness. This is one of the very big qualities in Buddhism and for human beings too. We call it metta or maitri. This friendliness, this kindness, loving kindness. So any of the positive qualities we can focus on during the day or direct the mind towards it. And we don't have to keep remembering it all the time, though it's good to keep, that determination mind just in the back of the mind. So we don't want to end up like backseat drivers, badgering the poor mind, do this, do that. This is not the idea at all, but inclining the mind, because the Buddha, one of the big teachings of the Buddha is it's no rocket science, whatever we focus on, that will become our experience. It will become bigger and bigger. If it be a negative thing, if we're focusing on our fears, our anxieties, they'll grow. They'll get bigger. We'll get more scared, more frightened, and prone to panic. If we focus on positive qualities like being friendly, having this relaxed state of mind, being patient, being kind, being caring, it takes us in another direction altogether. So it's very important how we use the mind, what we focus on. Has serious implications, doesn't it, for what we watch on the internet or on TV or whatever, because those sorts of messages that we get from watching TV and the news and all this influence our minds. Do you think that's true? I think a very good example is the news. Many people are turning away from watching news because they just find that it weighs the mind down, it depresses the mind. Of course, if some people can watch the news, there's no problem with that, and have compassion. They can have a lot of caring for others, can see the suffering that's in the world and want to do something for those people. So this can be more of a positive reaction to it. And Ajahn Brahm, who you may have heard of, the teacher. Have you heard of Ajahn Brahm? Most people heard of him? Yeah. He calls it programming the mind. So it's a good way of, and sometimes he's very cheeky with it. He says it's brainwashing. That's the way. But I think programming the mind is quite a good, useful way of seeing these resolutions, using these intentions, these adhitanas. And the amazing thing is, it'd be interesting to see how many people think the mind is programmable. Do you think the mind is? It's pretty obvious, really, isn't it, from that example, the first case. And how many people think we just choose what we are? Free will. We have got free will. That the mind, we can do what we wish with the mind, with our bodies. We're in control. How many people think we've got free will? I think, yeah. And I think we have free will within a conditioned range. That's what the Buddha would say. Because free will works on the idea that we can pick and choose, but it's only pick and choose from what we know, what we've been exposed to, what we've been brought up with, what we've encountered in our culture and time. The things that we focus on now, 50 years ago or 100 years ago, may not have been big issues. So this mind we can work with, and this programmable aspect of the mind, very, very useful. So, and of course, it's running, yes. And of course, why are these resolutions, these programming of the mind, aspirations is another word, good, is because they can really prioritize something, make something that's very important to us, the focus for our resolution. And the more wholehearted we are about it, the stronger that resolution. So, for instance, when the Buddha was striving, he wasn't the Buddha, he was the Buddha to be, and he was striving to be, to attain enlightenment. He had this resolution that he would not get up from his seat, even if his blood dried up and his bones turned to dust. Wow. And many of these spiritual practitioners really have had resolutions like that, because if they're prepared to put their life on the line, give their life for whatever it is that they are looking to attain, then it really gives the strength to this resolution, this state of mind. It's really wholehearted. I think, but I wouldn't make that resolution. I know the Ajahn Brahm, when he first started meditating, he said he made this resolution he wouldn't get up from meditation until the incense had burnt right down. And after a few minutes, his eyes were opening. It was still going. After 5 minutes, he was up. So in other words, these resolutions that we make should be realistic. They should be very useful for us, not too idealistic, within our capacity. For a Buddha to make that resolution is quite possible that he could do it. But it really is that determination. And if you wonder where these resolutions, these aspirations, determinations, adhitanas fit in, they are a part of mindfulness. It's really using mindfulness, but a very particular type of mind. Well, no, mindfulness is really keeping in something in mind. This is what my definition of mindfulness is, whether it be the present moment, whether it be the breath, whether it be our feet, whether it be metta or loving kindness. Mindfulness can have many different objects. So one of these objects is a resolution, like, may let my mind be alert and my body relaxed. When I'm tired, I can see when I go to meditation that if I don't make a sort of a resolution, remind the mind to be alert, relaxed, the body's relaxed, but to keep the mind alert, it can go to sleep, you can drop off quite easily. Also, another thing for people, if you're meditating and you feel drowsy, what's good is light. If you have a light on, that's very useful too. So, and of course this mindfulness is very useful because it's counteracting one of the big hindrances of our age. What do you think that is? Distraction. I think everybody's experienced that with when you look on the internet and you look at something, then you go on to something else and then something else, and then you think, what was I looking at to begin with? So distraction is a very common thing. So this ability to keep in mind, so useful. And this mindfulness is a great training for us. So this, I think this evening we can try it out. But one of the points with developing this resolutions, as I mentioned, is first to check up what we need. What does the mind need? What does the body need? For instance, here you may feel a bit tired in the evening after a day, maybe working or other activity. And so very, very good, as I mentioned, to remind the mind, let the mind be alert. Even though the body is relaxed, let the mind be alert. Even though let the mind be alert, even though the body is relaxed, so that it reminds the mind just to keep that sharpness in the mind, even though the body is resting. So this can be very, very useful for us just to check up what we need. It will differ from meditation to meditation. It can even be, let my mind be here and now. Let my mind be here and now with the meditation. And so just to keep that focus in the mind. So you can just see, and this evening when we do the guided meditation in a moment, each of us will probably have slightly different intentions, different resolutions to use. And when we try this out, we can check up at the end of it. Did that resolution work for us? And the idea is to set the resolution at the beginning 3 times and then let it run during the meditation. Maybe just from time to time to just remember it, but not to badger the mind, not to interrupt the meditation with it, not to backseat drive. So, and I know one example of, I remember Ajahn Brahm mentioning that you won't believe this, when he was meditating, when he was a lay person, before he became a Buddhist monk, he was probably still at school or at university, and he'd go to the local meditation group, and he said his foot would every time fall to sleep, would get numb, and go to sleep. And it would interrupt the meditation. He'd think, well, maybe it's going to be gangrene or something like this, as people do. And then one day he decided we'd had enough of that, and then he just made that determination. I won't. Whatever happens with the foot, if it goes to sleep, so what? If it develops gangrene, what? No matter. The blood gets cut off. And he said after that, he never had problem with the foot dropping off to sleep, getting numb. So it can show the power of the mind. The power of the mind is really extraordinary. Sometimes people think of these placebos. Have you heard of placebos? And I know one monk, I can't remember who it was, said it's better to call that mind effect. I would say better to call it the power of the mind, that something that doesn't really have a medicinal value can actually work for us, not because of the medicine, because of the mind. So the power of the mind is something that is really can be developed. And of course, this is why meditators that develop the deep meditations can develop psychic powers. The Buddha never encouraged it, but they can walk on water, they can go through solid things, they can fly through the air, they can hear things that are happening in miles away or in other world systems, even see things that are happening elsewhere. They can read minds, they can, lots of different psychic abilities. But this is not the point for the Buddha. This is what happens when the mind really gets very, very powerful. So this is what we can do. And it will give, when we have a determination or a resolution, it gives energy to the mind and it gives focus to the mind. I often say to people, if we don't have if we, for instance, want to go to Sydney, if we don't have an intention to go to Sydney, I should say, will we go to Sydney? Will we ever get there? Maybe accidentally, but really, in order to get somewhere, go somewhere, and intention's needed, it will happen, and then it can happen. It may not happen, but it can happen. So this intention brings focus and also this energy with it too. So, and as mentioned, we should, have realistic intentions. But Ajahn Brahm's always saying too that the power that we need to tap into is not willpower. This isn't willpower actually. If you understand the Buddha's teaching, it is using a power of the mind, actually that programming that we can set up in the mind by repeating things. We're actually programming ourselves a lot of the day, all of our lives actually, by the messages we're taking in again and again, which is why advertising works, because they find that repetition, and eventually, people will take it on board and then go out and buy the product and so forth. So it's quite a phenomena, this programming of the mind. Better if we program our minds than somebody else, because all those intentions that others may be suggesting to us again and again and again, and over time may start to get etched into our minds, may not be such good intentions. So good that we develop these wholesome, the positive intentions. So let's try it out anyway and do some programming of our minds. All right, so we can get ready for meditation. If you want to adjust your sitting posture. There we are. That's good, I have a drink. And now for those who'd like, you can close the eyes, or you can half close them if you're feeling a bit tired. It's extraordinary what a difference having the eyes half closed can do. And we can come into the present moment, here and now, and check out if the body needs any adjustments. Does the head feel comfortable over the shoulders, balanced, and the shoulders over the hips? Are the hands comfortable? And how are the legs doing? Just to make sure the position of the body is not going to impact on the meditation. And now we can relax the body physically by tightening the feet and the legs as we breathe in, and then as we breathe out, we can relax, let go of that tension. So we can begin with the feet and the legs, and to tighten them from the feet up. And as we breathe out, relax from the top of the legs down to the feet. And then we can move up the body to the abdomen, stomach and chest, and we can breathe in and tighten those areas. And as we breathe out, we can let go of that tension. Now we can bring to mind the hands, the arms and the shoulders, and as we breathe in we can tighten that area. And let go as we breathe out. And now we can bring to mind the neck and the face and the head, and we can tighten that area as we breathe in. And let go as we breathe out. And we can just feel, what does it feel like when we do that? And now we can mentally relax the body, and this is very powerful usually, and that's having this idea of giving a mental massage to the body, starting with the head, all around the top of the head, the sides of the head, back of the head, soothing and relaxing with this mental massage like two invisible hands. Soothing and relaxing those areas. And then moving down to the forehead and the face, all around the eyes and the mouth, and down to the neck. Soothing and relaxing those areas with this warm, kind, mental massage. Now bringing to mind the right shoulder and moving our attention along the right shoulder and giving the right shoulder a deep, warm, mental massage. allowing all the tensions of the day to dissolve, to reduce, relaxing the right shoulder. Now bringing to mind the right arm down to the hand and fingers, and giving the right arm, hand and fingers this gentle, kind massage, mental massage, allowing them to relax, to feel very comfortable, at ease. Soothing the right arm, hand and fingers. Now bringing to mind the left shoulder, starting at the neck and moving along the left shoulder with a soothing, really deeply relaxing mental massage. Now bringing to mind the left arm, starting at the top of the left arm and moving down the left arm all around it to the hand and fingers with this relaxing mental massage. Now bringing to mind the back, starting below the shoulders, and just moving our attention down the back from side to side, moving down with this warm, gentle, soothing mental massage. And now bringing to mind the front of the body, just below the shoulders, and moving our attention down the front of the body, from side to side, and moving down with this warm, relaxing, kind mental massage. Now bringing to mind the right leg, starting at the top of the right leg and moving our attention down the right leg, all around it, down to the ankle, foot and toes, giving the right leg this deep mental massage, really relaxing the right leg. And now bringing to mind the left leg, starting at the top of the left leg and moving the intention down the left leg all around it to the knee, ankle, foot and toes with a soothing, gentle mental massage. Just allowing it to really let go and relax. And now we can become aware of the whole body sitting here comfortably, relaxed, balanced, at ease. And we can check up what this mind and what this body needs for this meditation. Does it need more energy? Does it need to calm down some energy, agitation, restlessness? Does it need more peace, more kindness, more acceptance? We can just check up what we need, what the mind needs at this time, the mind and the body. And now we can find, you can find a fitting intention or resolution for how you find the body and mind at the moment. Maybe it'll be something like, let my mind be alert and my body relaxed. Let my mind be alert and my body relaxed. Let my mind be alert and my body relaxed. Or let my mind be here and now during this meditation. Let my mind be here and now during this meditation. Let my mind be here and now during this meditation. So you can find a resolution that you feels really appropriate for you, for your situation now, state of your mind, the state of your body, and just repeat it 3 times. And now we can bring whatever resolution you've made to the present moment, just experiencing the present moment as it is, having put aside the past and the future, just being here now with nowhere that we have to go, nothing we have to do, for the time of the meditation. Bringing this resolution to mind and just being present with what we're experiencing moment by moment. Sounds of my voice, other sounds, the warmth of the air, the temperature, feelings in the body. And we just allow them to be. We're aware of them. We don't need to identify them, get involved with them. Just have this awareness of what we're experiencing now. Just observing what is happening for us, what we're experiencing. And when the breath comes to our attention, we can go to the breath and we can observe the breath coming in, the gap between the in-breath and the out-breath. And we can be with the breath, with this resolution in mind, in the back of our minds. Just breathing in, noticing it, noticing the gap, noticing the breath going out. Like a wave coming in to the beach, and then pausing and then going out. So with our breath, we can notice it coming and going. And we can notice the quality of the breath as it comes in. Maybe it feels very soft. Maybe it feels cool when it comes in and warm when it goes out. Whatever quality we can notice with the breath, whether it's short or long. We can pay attention to that quality. So our attention can stay with the breath. And if the mind wanders off, we can remember the breath, remember the resolution, and come back to the breath. Gently, kindly. And now, as we're coming close to the end of the meditation, we can share whatever we experienced, the wholesome states of mind we've experienced, and maybe a little bit more stillness, maybe a little bit more alertness, clarity, peace, maybe some joy, whatever we've experienced, presence, being here now, share these with everyone here in the hall, the feelings that we have experienced during this meditation for their happiness and well-being, like a gift. And we can expand this sharing beyond these walls to all the beings around this centre, human beings, animals, unseen beings, whatever beings. Share whatever positive, wholesome states we experienced with them for their happiness and well-being, a gift to them. And we can expand this sharing further and further until we cover whole of Australia and the whole of the world and all the different realms of existence, sharing this gift of these, what we experienced during the meditation. And now we can come back to ourselves and make the aspiration to use this programming, use these resolutions wisely throughout in our day, perhaps starting the morning with a positive resolution and using it in our meditation, not only for our benefit, for the benefit of others, so that our speech and actions comes from these positive resolutions, these adhitanas. And now we can check up on the meditation just to see how we feel now, what indeed did we experience, what feelings, what mental states occurred for us during the meditation. And we can ask what caused them, these mental states to arise, what triggered them, and did these aspirations, these resolutions, this programming influence what we experienced? Was there a little bit more clarity, more presence, more alertness, more mindfulness, more peace because of that programming or not? And of course, anything else that stood out for us during the meditation. And now I'll ring the bell 3 times. And for those who would like to, you're welcome to come out of meditation on the 3rd ring. And we can, for those who wish to, slowly open the eyes and move the body. Oh, there we are. So, there we are. So I hope you found that of benefit, of use, that it was an interesting experiment for you to see the power of the mind, of our minds, and to use it in our lives, not particularly during the meditation, but also for setting up the day as well. I would suggest that, as mentioned, we check up what state the mind is in, what state the body is in, and then have a intention or resolution, adhitthana, that's appropriate. If we use, this will be my peaceful day, this will be my peaceful day, this will be my peaceful day, every morning, I suspect after a while, the mind won't pay attention to it. It may not be what we need. It may be that, may I have energy today to deal with what I have to deal with. May I have clarity. May I have kindness towards myself, acceptance, and as mentioned, patience. So it could be different things that we need. And of course, as mentioned, we can also use it for dealing with negative states of mind, so the hindrances in meditation. So may my mind not bring up a lot of desires. May my mind not, let my mind not bring up a lot of desires. Let my mind not go towards aversion or ill will and so on. So drowsiness, agitation, doubt, all that. So we can use it in a positive sense or using it with its negative states of mind. But usually the shortcut is the positive states. Because if you have kindness, aversion won't come up. If you have alertness, you probably won't be drowsy and dull. And if you bring up that sense of peace, you probably won't have agitation and a lot of doubts going on in the mind. Is this the right way to do it? And all these sorts of things. Why am I doing this? One of the very big things with intention and having aspirations is it means that we understand why we're doing the meditation, why we're sitting here, why we're spending that time. And that's quite a good thing to do. As mentioned, otherwise the mind can just meander off into drowsiness, into all different sort of states. But if you have this sort of intention in mind, it can be very helpful to use it as a support, not to use it as like to hit the mind with all the time. That's no good. If we use it obsessively, it's not worth it either. It becomes instead of becoming a tool for you working with the mind, it becomes sort of something that works against us, and will become tiring. Yeah, good. So there we are. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ajahn. Lovely meditation. Doctor, so very quick few announcements. Ajahn has already mentioned the online Discord group that does the morning and evening meditations. Other opportunities to continue your practice. There is a Tuesday night lay teacher guided meditation here tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. if you'd like to come and sit in the hall again if you're in Melbourne. And we have a few retreats coming up. A couple in March that are already booked out at this point, including one being offered by Ajahn Nissarano in a couple of weeks. But so they're wait list only. There are 2 that are currently open for bookings that are happening after that. There's a 10-day retreat being offered by Ajahn Brahm between the 2nd and the 11th of April, which is over Easter. Bookings are now open for that. To BSV and BSWA, that's a Buddhist Society of Western Australia, members only. And then after 2 weeks, any unallocated tickets will be made available for non-members. Also, Ajahn Brahm, who was mentioned earlier, is offering a 7-day retreat from the 3rd to the 9th of May. The ballot opened yesterday because that will be extremely popular, again for BSV and BSWA members, and the ballot will remain open just until 6 p.m. next Sunday, at which point the lucky people will have their names drawn out. So please check the website or the newsletter for more details. Next week's teaching program, including the Monday night meditation, is being offered by Ajahn Samangalo.
Yeah.
So they're all the announcements. Are there any questions here in the hall? You can just raise your hand. We do have a couple of online questions, including one that may be a new question for you, Ajahn.
Yes. Oh, that's be interesting. But I hope people try it out, this idea of using resolutions. Just see if it works for you. I think it's well worth the experiment, just to see if it works for the mind and for yourself. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ajahn.
So this unusual question. Oh.
The question is, what karma do we need to do to overcome the bad karma that makes me struggle in dating?
Oh wow, that's actually. Strangely enough, there is. I've had questions about dating. It's interesting, isn't it, to ask a monk who's not having relationships, who's celibate, about dating. But sometimes it gives you, when you're not in caught up with it, it gives you more insight into it. But often the karma that we need to overcome or to avoid in dating, in life in general, is that neediness. If somebody is very needy, people pick it up a mile off. And if you have romantic intentions, it can be very obvious to the other person that you're very needy, you want something from them. But if you have friendliness, this kindness, the metta, this is a much better way to actually attract people, because it's actually not sending out that message, I need this, I need that. It's more open, it's more this friendliness without expectations, without any demands, without any agenda. Because that's one thing that really, I think all of you can probably relate to this in relationships. If somebody is very needy, most people back off immediately. So that's the karma I think you need to avoid. And the good karma you need to make is actually to bring up metta, loving kindness, friendliness, just openness to what may happen, may not happen. And when it's like that, people are much more attracted. Somebody who's very friendly, it's great. Somebody who wants something, wow. People are very, sort of on edge and, a bit reserved and so forth. So that would be my suggestion. So there we are.
Thank you very much.
See if it works. Try it.
Dating advice from a Buddhist monk.
Yes, dating advice, yes.
And our second question is, Sir, I watched all your Eightfold Path videos, but I feel it's difficult and I forget and indulge in reels on the phone or other activities, and after some time I feel bad. How to start applying the Eightfold Path in daily life? Yes.
No, I think that's very important to start applying the Noble Eightfold Path in daily life. Always, and this is the good advice for all of us, is to remember the second factor of the Noble Eightfold Eightfold Path, which is right intention. And that is just to remind ourselves that happiness is coming from inside. All those things that we experience through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching may bring happiness for a short time, but really what we're looking for is deep happiness within, a happiness that comes not so much from the senses, from being kind, being still, being peaceful, being content, being grateful, all those really good emotions. So that is important. And then the second aspect of that right intention is to be kind, to practice the path with kindness, with friendliness, with goodwill to ourselves and to others. So in other words, not to feel guilty, not to feel bad that we were watching reels. There's no problem with the reels, the videos. It depends on what you're watching, I guess. But to be kind to ourselves, but not necessarily using that for indulgence, but just to be kind. Know that we're human, we won't be perfect. And also the last one is not to harm or hurt ourselves or others, to have a sort of a mind that is caring, is concerned for ourselves and others. So this right intention is so important for how we practice the path. If we practice a path with a very stiff or a very tense mind or a very a negative mind, it's not going to work. You know, when people, for instance, force themselves to do things and they're using this sort of whip on their minds, this is not the way to practice it. But of course, you know, I think the Noble Eightfold Path is a gradual training. The Lord Buddha calls it a gradual training. So it's something that will develop over time. And when we experience situations that before we may not have handled so well, and we're dealing with it in a different way, maybe a better way, then we get an idea of progress along this Noble Eightfold Path. But I think the second factor of the Noble Eightfold Path is so important. How we practice the Noble Eightfold Path. And of course, you know, it's always going to be the right view. Bringing out right view is very important because that'll take us towards the destination, enlightenment. And little by little, you know, our view of things becomes clearer and clearer, and we can see the value in right view. And when that develops more and more, that will give more energy, more focus to us walking the Noble Eightfold Path. So the central ones, of course, is really realizing and that our actions of body, speech and mind do count. They create karma, we say. But of course, whatever we repeat again and again is actually programming us, actually developing habits. And we want to develop positive habits and not the negative. So this is a very important part of right view. And also that this is not the only life. So it's important that because how we live this life will impact on what comes after. And this is very, very useful for us, even though most people will not have experienced past lives. But the Buddha certainly did, millions of them. So these two are very important, and also that we have the confidence that there are enlightened beings, there have been enlightened beings, that the Buddha was enlightened. There are teachers, there are people who are practicing the Noble Eightfold Path who have become enlightened. So very good. And in our daily life, this is where we can bring up right speech. This is where we use mindfulness throughout the whole of the path, just to be aware of our speech so it's not coming, as the Buddha says, use a wonderful simile. He says, we're all born with an axe in our mouths, an axe, but a wise person doesn't use it. But when we want something badly, we're not wise. When we are angry, averse, afraid or anxious, or having a lot of thoughts driven by ego, we're not wise. And so the axe can come out. So speech is really important. And that's something in daily life that we can use, we can be mindful of. Because mindfulness is not this sort of blank quality of just knowing. It needs a focus for it to know. So usually one of the big focuses is the present moment, the breath, as I mentioned, loving kindness, but also how we interact with people, what our speech is like, and also our actions are like. So this is the precepts and the speech, and also our livelihood, how we make a living. And we bring mindfulness to all of that, but we bring the kindness too. So we are not harming or hurting ourselves or others through our speech, actions, or our livelihood. And so that's very day to day. And also in our daily lives, just checking up how our minds are, what state they're in. And if they're in a negative state of mind, to let go of it. And if we know or we can anticipate that negative states of mind are going to come up, to avoid them. But even better than that is to develop positive states of mind. So if we have an issue with anger or these sorts of things, then to develop more metta, more loving kindness, so that avoids these, reduces or avoids angry states of mind. And it means we don't have to let go of anger, which is very difficult once it's got going, once it's burning, as it were. So this checking up on the qualities of the mind, this is right effort from them, and once we've got good qualities, we bring up good qualities, develop them, then we keep them going. And then the next one, samasati, all day, all the time. Mindfulness is so important, of what the body, the feelings that are coming up, the mind states, and keeping in mind the Buddha's teachings as signposts for us so that we can, as it were, recognize things. Sometimes without those teachings, we may not recognize states of mind for what they are, that maybe they're negative and we can't see it. But when we have the Buddha's teaching, especially about the hindrances, they're the negative states of mind that block meditation and our lives, or the awakening factors, those factors that lead to the meditation really taking off, then that mindfulness can be very, very useful. And we can reflect on life too, these six senses that we're experiencing all the time, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting and touching, and the mind thinking, having emotions, all this sort of thing. So this framework of the Dhamma can be so, so useful for us to really to develop wisdom, because the Lord Buddha is pointing to those things that will really bring enlightenment when the mind is in a good condition, seeing our interaction with the six senses, and also the five aggregates, they call them. This is the body, the feeling, the perceptions, the intentional activities, and the consciousness. So those aspects we can see, we can reflect on when the mind is in a good state. It's got strength and stillness and clarity and power, and that's great. And that comes usually after the eighth factor, because the eighth factor is when the mind becomes incredibly steady and still, samadhi, when it comes together to some degree, or if it comes together very well, then it's the deep meditations, the jhanas or dhyanas, that where the mind is really one-pointed with enormous joy and happiness. And that experience gives rise to a different view on the world, because often what's really happened when the mind goes into these states, it's left the five sense world. This is the world we know. It's gone to another world. And so when we come back out of that, wow, things look different. They're different from that experience. And so that can be very useful for insight, because we get the comparison very, very strongly. And what we'll see will be always the same things. Anicca, this impermanence, always seeing unsatisfactoriness or suffering, always seeing that this is a process, not a self, an I, me, and myself. But that's all theory until you have experience of something that really shows you when these things are not there, what's missing, So for instance, when you're in these deep meditations, only happiness. So and you realize it's happiness without the five senses, without all that input that's where we usually look for happiness, where we're feeding on for happiness. But a sort of happiness that Buddha says is not really a good quality. The deeper happiness is what we're aiming at. And of course, this is still for the Noble Eightfold Path. And that's only the path of practice. Then it'll lead, the Buddha says, to the insights, to the knowledge. He calls it right knowledge. The samanyana. And then he says, once we've experienced those insights, our insights, not the Buddha's, we have to make it our insights, then we can achieve, then we can experience right liberation, the mind liberated from all the defilements permanently and liberated from ignorance, really understand what's going on for the first time, can really see it. And because of that, having the mind having enormous happiness and strength and steadiness. And that's what the stages of enlightenment, the 4 stages of enlightenment lead to. So really, daily life, always using mindfulness, always keeping in mind the right intention, very important, and checking up what we need, the mind needs. And as mentioned this evening, using a resolution or an adhitthana that fits the state of our minds, states of our bodies. So this can be very useful. So that's what I would suggest. It is a daily, it's a 24/7 practice actually. But using mindfulness, key ones, mindfulness and right intention too. They're really so important that we're kind to ourselves, because if we're beating ourselves up, that's not good. We're all doing the best we can. So that's great. So thank you for that question online. And that Noble Eightfold Path series I did was really popular, actually. And so many people say it to me. Yeah, so, all right.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. That was like a summary of the complete path.
Yeah, well, it was really.
In one answer.
Yeah.
We are very close to 9 o'clock, which is when we finish. I just wonder whether you can offer a very quick answer to one question here in a couple of minutes, Ajahn, possibly. Gosh, there are a lot of questions appearing. We unfortunately won't have time for most of them. We're just going to have one more, which is, how do I know if I am developing genuine samadhi and not just relaxation?
Oh, right. Because genuine samadhi will actually bring a lot of peace, but it'll bring a lot of joy and happiness too. The mind will start to be getting steady. Yes, not going to sleep. The thing is that samadhi, when the mind comes together, high energy states. So there is no way one can really confuse it with sleep. I think when sometimes people, myself included, will say, oh, gee, that meditation went so fast. It usually means that the mind wasn't so alert or bright or sharp. But these samadhi states are high energy. They're really the high energy. Very peaceful, high energy. Isn't it amazing? That peace and that really clarity, that joy, that happiness in those states. And the thing is that they are those single experience, the states of oneness, which is so different from our everyday life. That's where we get a glimpse of the non-self, actually, because there was just oneness. There was just the experience happening, not me standing back thinking, oh, this is nice, isn't it? I think I like this. Observing it, commenting on it. So it's really gives a lot of insight. And we can see all the things that have disappeared that were anicca. And when we come out of the meditation, five senses, the five hindrances, all the negative stuff is gone for that time. The sense of self is gone, and only this happiness and joy, which people are looking for from the five senses, but it's not really on offer that much from the five senses, not for long periods anyway. So there we are. So that's so that's what we're aiming at with samadhi. So it's quite easy not to confuse it with sleep or drowsiness, because it's high, very clear and very high energy states of mind. So great. Thank you. And thank you to everyone this evening. And just to make one announcement, if anyone can offer a lift to me back to the monastery on Wednesday at 3:00, that would be appreciated. If anybody has the time to go to Newbury Monastery from here, it's an hour and a half. It's quite a long way. On Wednesday at 3:00. I have a school group before that, and then I finish at 2:30, and then I can go back to the monastery. So if anyone can, that's great. Please speak to me, and that'll be lovely. All right? So have a good night, and please try the resolution for tomorrow morning, a good resolution for the day, and then you can see if it really takes effect. Yeah. And now for those who would like, we can pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha.